Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. BJ on Game Day back again for another week. As always, you're joined by the one and only Joshua King, mate. How are we?
Mate, absolutely brilliant. One and only.
Yeah.
Well, the real.
In retrospect, not the one and only, but
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, I get around though. I play a lot of sports. I'm doing well. You know, I've made a career playing shithouse for Bournemouth or whoever the fuck I played for in the EPL. Now I play some semi-decent football for Melbourne, but mate, yeah, I'm good. I'm good, mate. Back for another week. Good to be back again. We've got Bogan in the background, ladies and gentlemen. After what was probably a tough week for Supercoaches, mate. Obviously not as high scoring as the last week or two. But in saying that, mate, I think we've both got that core of a team, mate. You can see our scores on the screen there, mate. 12-20 for me, 12-02 for you. We're pretty happy, mate. We both would have seen green arrows, mate.
yeah, it was for me, definitely, mate, where I was out near 15K. So jumped in about 3K spots. I think I'm just inside top 12K. So doing absolutely nothing. But yeah, it was good. I made a couple interesting trades. Traded out Aitken because I got a bit of mail that he might have been out. So I went early on the mail.
Ugh.
Didn't end up being out and then turned up. So that one stung a little bit. But did trade out Deefy when found out he was on the bench. And that ended up being a good trade because he scored 20 and now looks like he's going to be out for a month.
Yep.
So, yeah, look, can't complain at the end of the day, 1,200. Aitken stings a little bit, but person I brought in scored sort of 70-odd, so about a 30-point difference.
Did you bring it
But I can't complain, mate. I went Billy Kicks and Swali, so generated a bit of cash and a bit of buy coverage, but I guess the Billy Kicks trade was on the assumption that Aitken was out, and that sort of backfired. But anyway, onwards and upwards. And, mate, what about yourself? You're doing quite well this season. Another good score this week.
Mate, yeah, look, every week's been green arrows, which has been good. There's obviously going to be a time where it doesn't happen, but let's hope that's far and far away. I'm up to 698, so I went up about 300 spots this week. Managed to crack the top 1,000, which was good. Haven't blasted all trades away, but I'm close. But in saying that, mate, really, really sort of happy with the side and where it's going. I don't know whether I'll be able to say that come around sort of 2021, but right now, mate, everything about my side I absolutely love. So I'm, pretty happy going into round 13 as well. I've already sort of got plans there going where that's all sort of going for that first buy round. And, mate, I think most people across the BJ group sort of have scored well. I know obviously we'll get to the results later in the show, but, you know, I know a few of the group players are sort of in that sort of top 200, top 300, top 500. So really, really good to see. We're repping that well. Good to see Wayno, Hell's Granny's in the chat there today. Mate, shout out to Wayno. Hopefully we get to see him back soon. He's having an absolute stinker of a year. But, let's see him improve. Bogan, you there, son? How'd you go on the weekend, mate?
Yeah, fucking shit house. I'm the Parramatta of Supercoaches.
Yeah.
Score fucking 1,500 one week and then fucking just break the 1,000 the next. You can get fucked. Fucking game. I'm deleting the app.
Mate, that's what everyone will tell you on Facebook if you're on Facebook is delete the app. As soon as you make a mistake, as soon as something goes wrong. But look, you're not wrong. Parramatta were absolutely woeful on the weekend. We'll get to that shortly. And that does feel like a little bit of Supercoaches where you start that first 5, 6, 7 weeks off sensationally, and then it all just comes crashing down. And where do you go from there? Hampton, mate, we've had a little bit of a chat today about a few trades. We'll get to those as well. But, mate, Teamless Tuesday is probably the most, I guess, uproar. A lot of changes with Teamless Tuesday today, mate. And we'll go through those in the games. But what do you feel, mate? Like, obviously, Tomo Turbo making a comeback. Brian Toto named in the reserves. Mate, obviously Payne Haas out, AC joint in the shoulder. And that can be an ongoing thing. They're talking about a week. But, mate, those things, they're not so much debilitating as they hurt. So what are your thoughts, Hampton, with Teamless Tuesday today?
Yeah, look, I must admit I hadn't actually had a great close look at it. Just sort of got some of the tidbits out of it, some of the key things. Obviously, Deefy, as I mentioned, out as well, which is a pretty big one, and Tommy Turbo back in that Manly side, and a couple of injuries in that back line. So a couple of guys, Chipolata, as I like to call him, Christian Tuipulotu, and Kula getting a bit of a reprieve, and Tass as well, which is interesting. So there's plenty of moves that can be made, and a couple of big decisions that need to get made around, if you got Payne Haas, do you hold him? He's only out a week. Or coming into sort of origin period, AC joint, is it going to be a niggly injury? How's he going to go? Things like that, mate. But yeah, it's thrown up a few things, which is good. And it means there'll be a few decisions to be made, and some of those decisions will make or break people. A few people looking at bringing in Turbo to get the jump straight away, make him that pod from now. So some big decisions, and a lot of people burning trades. I feel king. Just a lot of people trading. So there's a part of me that's still thinking just pull up because I'm just not a lot of people seem to be saving them, but I don't know, maybe it's just me and a bit of wishful thinking. But
mate, you're not wrong. And it's really hard. I mean, especially with how my team's gone this season, and I have needed a trade to get there. I have had a plan the whole way along, and sort of putting in a lot of effort into sort of what to do, and I don't really like to trade through the weekends. I am a person who always sort of makes that trade decision prior to Thursday and just sort of gets them locked in. Fifi was one last week so I think we spoke about on the Tuesday or Wednesday where I dumped him, and it turned out that everyone else got to as well just because he was named on the bench, and maybe I was a little bit sort of unlucky there in the fact that I was getting rid of him early, but it's one of those things, and Big Ted and I have had a chat about it as well, where you've really got to sort of set yourself up and trying to find that balance. It's so hard to know how many you've got. I was thinking to myself today, obviously, Timmy Moody, who won last year, mate, he got to around 25 last year, had a couple of spare trades, and and was able to sort of make some moves going into that last round to solidify his spot. I'm trying to figure out how I've got trades left at the end of the season, but still strategically get my team to where I want it to through the different buy rounds. And it's tough, mate. It really is tough. So as it stands, I've got the team that I'm after. And if I didn't make another trade now, I've got a guaranteed 11 decent players for the buy round. So, for round 13. So, I'm hoping I can sort of just calm down now and just maybe take a week or two off trading and just lead into that round 13 with 11 and then maybe throw in 3 or 4.
Bogan, are you fucking eating chips or something?
Bogan? You're eating dinner. So they can't hear it.
Yeah, look, we hope so. Yeah, look, and you don't necessarily need, obviously, 16, 17 for that round 13 Viking. You want that quality 13, 14, 15. There's no point having some mug that's going to score 20, 30 points, and it's, he ends up being someone that loses 100K between now and then or more or that sort of thing. So I think, once you hit that number that you're happy with for 13, try and chill off a bit, and then hit 14 and try and bring those guys in like your IPAPs and things like that for the run home that are going to be genuine keepers, and just have a plan to get those guys in as soon as possible. But yeah, easier said than done. Look, before we go on any further, King, everyone in the chat, good evening. Thanks for joining us as always. I don't know how lit it is in there at the moment, but I'm sure we've got a few in there. So as always, ladies and gents, shout out to Bogan for the cracking graphic this week with Cleary there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so looking forward to looking at the team list, and let's jump in and review round 8 that was.
Yeah, mate, we start off on the Thursday night. Unfortunately, my boys going down to Broncos in what was an absolute terrible game. I ventured to the stadium for this one. I went up to Suncorp. I watched it from the back row of the stadium just to stay as far away from I could from this shit as possible, because it was just a stinker. And it was billed as the battle between Katoni Staggs and Sifa Talakai. And Staggs definitely getting the points on this one. The Broncos were up in Cronulla's face. But in saying that, Cronulla just didn't execute. They didn't turn up to play this week. For Nukin, they definitely missed. They missed his sort of go forward and that leadership. He'll be a welcome comeback this week for the Sharkies. Look, I've said it sort of after the game that a lot of the Broncos fans, and especially living up here in Brisbane, I've heard a lot about, this is it, we're back. But this is the game every year. Look, Cronulla have got a poor record against the Broncos. The last couple of years, we've lost the corresponding game by 20 or 30 points. They just seem to be that bogey side at this time of the year that Cronulla have. I don't like what I saw from the Broncos, and up against South this week, A-Ray tries to get revenge over his team, but I just think the Broncos have got a long, long way to go. From a Supercoach point of view, Stag's obviously solid. It's what we sort of want to see more week in, week out from him. Capewell's out this week, I'm pretty sure, from what I hear, as Payne Haas is as well. So,
Correct.
a couple of Supercoach relevant players there. Herbie Farnworth's floating around in a few teams, and he's been solid this year and was solid again. But again, those top three players, the three try scorers for the Broncos. So, from a base point of view, not a massive score for the Bronx, mate. Like not really much creative stuff around the try scorers.
No, I think it was a funny old game. Sharks just never looked really on in this game, did they? Just always sort of off the pace. They weren't gelling. They were just, the timing was a bit off. It was probably Hines' game, to be fair, and he still pumped out 68. But, credit to the Broncos. You said Stags did a fair number on Talakai. Shut down some early opportunities, I think, were pretty crucial, and, put it over him. So, credit to Brisbane.
Mate, just a shout out to Benny in the chat. Obviously, Benny called me out for a swing back to the 80s. I'm not sure how we do that, but I'll tell you what, boys, I got home at 5:30 in the morning on this one, and I didn't show up for work the next day. So I definitely drowned my misery, my sorrows. I wasn't on the best speaking terms with the boss the next day because I never showed up. But anyway, here we go. Yeah.
Look, I think the Sharks will forget about that one and move on to next week, and it'll just be sort of one of those ones they try not to think about again, and hopefully bounce back a bit better next week.
Friday night game, Bugs. Oh, who we got? I don't remember. Mate, obviously a bit of a lower scorer one for this one, mate.
Yeah, it was a funny old game, wasn't it? I think Cleary was he on less than 10 at half time or something crazy like that? So, obviously pretty relevant given the fact he'd gone back-to-back 150s, and non-owners like myself sort of sweating on this game deluxe because I think in the corresponding game they played with the Titans last year, he got a hat-trick and broke. I think that was the game he broke the record initially last season. So, look, an 88, you'll take it. I thought at half-time, how good's this? You might only get 40, 50, but, the class that is Nathan Cleary, just, you can't. It's so hard to shut him down. I think the Titans did reasonably well to sort of keep the score to what they did. But, nothing overly massive Supercoach-wise. Obviously, Cleary top scored there. Kickout was the next best for the Panthers, but, pretty ordinary. Otherwise, a lot of people probably disappointed, to be fair, in some of the scores of the Penrith players. At the end of the day, guys like Tago and May probably hoping for a little bit more, but ultimately, I think so many people have them, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, mate, I don't think it really does. But, to be fair on that as well, like we speak about centre wingers and the position that position plays in the game, like for a Supercoach point of view, centre wingers have always been the most volatile, and a 50 and a 39 isn't the worst of scores for a Supercoach game. So, it's when they sort of start throwing out 10s and 15s, they're the guys that you don't want to have and the guys that frustrate you. I think this is probably the leanest run that we've seen these guys go through since the start of the season. I think they're both a hold. I think there's a lot of talk around, is it time for Targo to go? Does May hold his spot with Toto coming back? I think Staines goes. That's just my personal opinion. I think Toto can go back there on the right-hand side. I think him and Crichton would be an absolute lethal combination. I think they will just destroy teams. Mm-hmm. But, mate, from a Cleary point of view, like you say, just class. He was sort of down at half-time, but we saw a trend throughout the games the whole weekend where a lot of these top teams just didn't perform that well, probably bar in Melbourne against your boys, mate. Obviously, we saw the Eels go down. The Roosters just haven't turned up this season. A lot of teams just sort of maybe just, needed this bad week to get back on track.
Yeah, and I think in retrospect, you wouldn't have known obviously when this game was played, but the fact there wasn't any monstrous scores this week, I think Coates would have been the top scorer with his, I think, just under 120 or whatever it was that he finished on. If I could be wrong, I think it was Coates, but that's not huge. At the end of the day, we've been seeing 150s and 190s from Pat one of the weeks there, so it didn't probably hurt too much in the end. But Cleary owners would have been pretty happy considering what he was on at halftime. Tight side of the park, the big man, Mazu, just keeps on keeping
obviously, by round 13, both of these two teams are going to feature. Obviously, going to find a lot of rep players from both teams. Mate, Tino, is he a guy you're looking at for maybe 13? Has he deserved
he'll probably
consideration?
He'll play Origin. He'll play for Queensland, you lunatic.
I didn't think he was fucking Queensland. He is, isn't he? Fafita is too, isn't he? How good are we going, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah. Forget.
Yeah. I will I'll tell you someone.
4 other rep games.
Oh, there's the rep round.
There's
rep
the standalone round.
Weekend, where it's a standalone round.
So there's no Supercoach ramifications, that middle Supercoach, middle state of origin. Yeah, sorry, mate. Obviously,
one bloke. Yeah. I can deflect it to another place. One bloke, and Fatuaka will be as well, who's another bloke I'm a fan of. A lot of people sort of jumped off him.
He was Queensland's best last year, Fatuaka. He was brilliant.
It's taken him a little bit to build up, but I think he's starting to get there now. He's maybe getting a bit of fitness in the legs, and big boys, starting to get a bit more involved. But for more, mate, I know a lot of people thought he was a cash grab, selling him a couple of weeks ago, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, but I still think he looks really good. I think his base is pretty good. He's still a try-scoring threat, and in round 13, I'm happy for him to be a pod.
Look, the biggest thing I came across the firm, and I got rid of him, mate, just to get Cleary in. Obviously, creating cash,
which is fair. Fair.
That was vital for me. But anyone who's sort of held on to this long, definitely. The big thing for me was when he got COVID, it did take him that couple of weeks to bounce back. He played 80 minutes and he just looked a little bit out of sorts. I think there was a couple of mid-30s games. So I can't find a way for him back in my team now, but he was definitely that cash grab that sort of did the job. But if you've held on to him, you got to hold on to him through 13.
And just aside from round 13 and Origin, Dave Fafita switched to the bench before the kickoff in this one, King. As you touched on, I think it was Tuesday, you said you were trading him out, and I said you were mad. I said you can't trade him out. There's no back row that can hurt you like DFE. As it turned out, once he got benched, I thought, I'm out. I'm not going through this shit with him now for the next few weeks leading into Origin and then post-Origin, I can't get a read on Holbrook. I don't know if it's an attitude or an injury or fitness or what, but
mate, look,
oh my goodness, what's doing?
There's probably 2 players I put into the category, him being one of them, and the other one's Latrell. They're the 2 guys who can break over a game better than anyone, but most games you'll see them active for about between 8 and 10 minutes. And that 8 and 10 minutes can score 100, 120 points. But it's not proven for them to do anymore. It really isn't there. They just won't. They never will. My thoughts behind trading him was more so that I had to make moves elsewhere in my team. I had to generate a bit of cash. I thought the couple of hundreds that he's had, there were people talking about before those couple of hundreds that he had about getting him out then. And I thought there was something coming along. But at the same stage, the hundreds that he scored just seemed inflated. They seemed like they were, unicorn points, if you call it. And I just didn't feel like I thought he was a player I could get rid of and not be scared of at the moment. And just call it blessed, call it luck. I don't know, but it sort of worked out in the end. I'm just really dirty that he started on the bench because a lot of other people got to get rid of him as well. If he had started,
I wouldn't have traded. I wouldn't have traded him.
Oh, mate.
You would have been miles ahead. Because I would never have traded him if he didn't get put on the bench. So, look, they got a better run home. So hopefully maybe gets a game or 2 in between now and Origin 3. Maybe drops a little bit in price. And so the run home for him isn't too bad. They play Melbourne and Manly in there, but realistically they're the best 2 teams in their last sort of 6-7 games. So anyway.
There you go. Move on.
Moving
Friday
on to the
night,
next one.
7:30 game. Fuck, I don't even remember. Oh, wow. Yeah, how can you not remember? 9 minutes in, Carl Lawton.
Yeah, something like that. 9, 10 minutes, something like that.
Look,
Whoops.
it's happened.
Brain explosion.
Sent off. I didn't think it deserved it. That's just me. That's just my opinion. I don't have anything behind it. There's no arguing. There's no this is why or anything like that. Just my personal opinion. I thought it was worth 10 in the bin. I would have been happy for him to get 2 or 3 weeks. What's that? I made 9 minutes in a semi-spear tackle on Cameron Murray. So it was basically a lift. It was definitely a good, it was a good tackle that you see from a lock or a hooker where they pick up a bigger guy and they put him on their back. And it was simply momentum sort of carried Murray further. So it wasn't one of your bad spear tackles where it's a head straight into the ground, but he definitely moved to that head neck area. It was probably shoulder into the ground first. I don't know. I just
don't know. What is they thinking, King? Like, as soon as you're going across that horizontal, you're gone.
Yeah.
And he still did have a bit. I know the intent wouldn't have been there to spear a bloke the way he did, but he didn't let up once he went horizontal, and that for me was, I think I
thought he lost the
thing that.
I thought Murray changing his weight. I thought Lawton lost the chance. Like you say, he went on
to bring it back.
I think Lawton had a clear intent to put him on his back, and yeah, I'm not fucking victim blaming here, but whatever.
Look, anyway, it is what it is. He ended up getting sent off, which had massive ramifications. What I thought would, and I thought as a Cody Walker, and licking my lips here, and I think Manly scored the next 2 tries after that, and it ended up being a bit of a contest until the back end of the game where the Rabbitohs scored a couple late tries. But up until then, it was a fair contest. So a huge effort from the Eagles. Obviously, Cody Walker was back to his brilliant best, and unfortunately, I think a lot of people were on him because he had pretty much bottomed out in Price King. And he did reward a lot of people. He obviously scored a try in his 150th, set a couple up. He was back to the Cody of old that I guess we all loved to watch last year. Tass obviously was the one $1 cheapie that.
Glenn Fisher.
Here's Wayno. What's he
NRL
is he in the chat?
Glenn Fisher, welcome to the chat, champion. This is BJonGameDay.
Evening, Glenno.
Welcome. Give him a wrench, mate. Give him a wrench.
Shout out to Supercoach Tragic Boys. Go over and give them boys a listen. They run tomorrow night.
Yep.
Most of Facebook through Facebook Live. But yeah, cheers, Glenny. Hey, mate. But yeah, look, Tass was good. Bottom dollar cheapie, 175k odd in the centre wing there, King, and has been named this week as well. So a good cash generation option there. Myself, I know he doesn't play 13, but you go someone Penasini to Tass, you bank 300k, which isn't too bad. So. He looks good. The security looks good. I thought with Milne coming back, he'd lose his spot, but apparently he's in at the spot. So good signs there. Good score from Murray there. I think saved a little bit by that jump try towards the end. But yeah, Murray owners will be happy about that. Kieran Foran, the bloke who scored 0 only a couple of weeks ago, topped it for the Eagles there. And your man, the Tipolata, as I like to call him, he looked awesome.
Mate, look,
just the eye test, he was busy. He was a handful. He was in.
Mate, I think it was round 2 or 3 where everyone was talking about Cooler and bringing him in, and I went this guy instead. I sort of just went through not so much some old results. I just watched a couple of bits of footage I fucking managed to find on fucking NRL, and I don't know, mate. I thought everyone was going one way. I thought let's just shake it up and go the other way, and he's looked good. They look good on the left-hand side. And when Turbo can score from anywhere, right? But Turbo definitely prefers that left-hand side. So, we'll just wait and see what happens. But, mate, Manly this week, I'm looking forward to see Olakwatu back, Schuster, fitter after 1 game back. Freaking DCE gets a bunch of confidence having Turbo back. I'm I'm loving Manly this week, mate. But yeah, last week, look, they put on a great performance. 12 men for 70 minutes, and they took the Rabbitohs the whole way. So, Supercoach wise, DCE was solid again. Schuster, mate, talk about him. What do you reckon? He looks fat.
Mate, I think he looked. I thought. I mean, I'm not one to speak, but if anyone's going to be calling someone fat or is qualified to be making those sort of assertions, it's me. I thought he looked really overweight, to be honest. It almost looked like a park footy player. Shout out to Wild Turkey. Any of the sponsors out there listening, feel free to jump on. Look, there's no denying his creative flair and his ability and what he can do with the ball in his hands. But for me, he looked really unfit. He didn't play the whole game, obviously, which you wouldn't have expected for him coming back, to be honest. Maybe you would, considering, some of the stuff that came out in the media about him wanting to play 5'8" and this and that. I mean, he still played 70 minutes, which is good, 31 in base, and had some attacking stats in him. So I don't mind him at 530k. Obviously, the Eagles play that first bye as well. He's got that duality between 5'8" and second row, and he's pretty cheap, realistically, at 530k. He's not a bad price. I don't mind him, and I don't mind going early on him either because I think with the Tigers this week and especially the Tigers this week, the draw's not too bad. It's not amazing. They do play Parramatta and Melbourne leading into round 13, but I just think the potential on him is really good, and I think he's a good prospect. You going?
Yeah, mate, I've gone him. I've gone basically this week, obviously with the Huss news leading into Origin. I've dumped Huss. I can see that Jed there in the chat said, got a hold of Penis, mate. Penis boy, he is gone for me. So I've dumped Huss, I've dumped Penasini, and I've brought in Schuster and Olakatu, mate. I've just been ultra impressed with this guy. I've been waiting for when I can get him in because I wasn't too sure about him at the start of the season, but mate, watching him for that first 6 weeks, this guy's lethal. And there's something about Manly just know when to get on a run. Like Desi's not worried about being good in the first fucking 5 or 6 weeks. He knows his team sort of takes a little while to get going. He's a fucking cunt. But, yeah.
I agree, the boys. I like Jetty's comment, got to hold the penis. That's right.
Glenn.
Yeah, I thought...
We'll go to Garrick in a second, Glenn. I want to talk about Garrick.
Schuster was George Rose. It looked like his shorts didn't fit properly in his jersey, didn't fit, but Cando's saying there was a delay in his return due to lack of fitness, and I didn't realise that was the case, but geez, it looked like it was pretty obvious.
Yeah. Penis Audi.
Well, that's just if you're circumcised or you're not circumcised, isn't it? Penisini, you haven't got the snip.
Yeah, I've been snipped. They cut off too much, unfortunately.
Got the tip, you reckon?
Yeah. Mate, Glenno.
Anyway, moving on.
You mentioned Ruben Garrick, a good trade in. I couldn't disagree, mate. I just can't find a way to get him in. I think he's huge pod material if you can. It's just a shitload to pay for a centre winger at this time of the year. If 650 odd K, Garrick is still 690. I think he might be. With Turbo back.
Yeah, 626. I guess the counter to it, I mean, Turbo played round 1 and 2, didn't he, against Penrith and the Chooks? Yeah. He didn't score amazing, but obviously you couldn't be too critical of Garrick. I think it's a big pod play. He's at, what's his ownership at, King? 5% currently, so it's a big pod move for a guy that has a ceiling.
It's just one of those things about team trends, mate. Like just reading how teams sort of start this, like we talked about the Eels right earlier. They always start off the season great. They sort of first 5 or 6 weeks, they're really there getting going, and then Brad Arthur's guys just go flat. Manly the opposite. Like Manly really build up, and I just think this is where they start their run. I think Turbo obviously coming back, he might take a week or two, but yeah, I reckon there's plenty of Supercoach points in this Manly team, and being that they play in round 13, I think there's a lot of guys in this team you can take a punt on because, other than your Turbo, your DCE, you really don't have any rep players sort of around that.
Yeah, so look, I don't mind Garrick. It's a big risk at 630, but you got to risk it for the biscuit, and it's one of those decisions. If he comes out against the Tigers and scores 2 or 3 tries, you're an absolute genius. And obviously with the goal kicking, if they're going to have some tries in him with Turbo back now and Ola back and Schuster back, he's going to be the beneficiary of that, a bit of that as well.
Yep. Saturday game, folks. Whoa,
Gee whiz.
Ados.
Can we get him in quickly?
Ados. Poor motherfucker.
Oh,
He was
jeez.
down there with you, wasn't he, mate? What did you watch down in Canberra? Who did you watch beat him?
The Cowboys won. They were up 12-6 at half time and got done 8. And it was a shocker. I don't know which one was worse. Probably this one
Can
was
we get
worse.
suicide watch on Ados, please?
Oh,
Fucking hell.
jeez. No good.
Mate, talk to me. You messaged me earlier today and you said one word. You said, what about it? Well, you said a few words, but what about Elliot? Talk to me about Elliot. Where'd that thinking come from, mate?
Well, it was actually Big Ted that sort of put me onto him.
That's enough to fucking say no. But
look, to be fair, he's 367k. He's got a negative 26 BE on Supercoach stats. I don't know. It's a bit of a variance. Look, it's a bit hard. His minutes are all over the shop. Last couple of weeks, last week he got named to play it, so he got switched to start at hooker and ended up playing 68 minutes.
Yep.
Turned up, obviously. His score's a bit inflated by that try. The week before, he played 50 minutes and only scored 40 points. So it's a little bit trappish. And obviously with the Ricky Stewart factor, you just don't know what Ricky's going to do next. He could be out of the team next week. So, I had to think of it with Ted. I thought it was probably a good, not a bad move. He'd play round 13 as well, maybe with Big Pap playing Papali playing Origin. He might still be guaranteed some minutes, but I think he might be hard-pressed sort of making too much money out of him if he's only going to be playing 40, 50 minutes. So it's just, I guess, if you think he's going to go on a tear now and get some good minutes, say 60 minutes, his base wouldn't be bad. But, yeah, I'm not sure. I won't be bringing him in, but, it's an interesting discussion point there at 367.
Whether it was Glenno, whether it was Ross Mann, whoever shared that that point scoring, round by round point scoring, I think you might have seen it today, mate, where obviously how many Supercoach points a team scored for and scored against. Mate, we spoke about before with the Raiders. You missed that?
No,
yeah, look, we spoke about it before with the Raiders. They're too hard to depend on. There's not anyone there who sort of shines bright. Elliot, he was the same player at the Dogs, where he'd go on that sort of good run, but more from a point of view for the team rather than Supercoach. It's nice to see there a 104 up there. Those used to be 80s or 90s, so maybe he's improved even more. Maybe it's the Millie Boyle factor, who knows? But, it's something that I can't entertain. I think, you look at his projected there, 27. I know projections mean nothing, but they come from statistics as well. So, there's a reason this guy's never really been talked about much in Supercoach. It just feels like chasing points to me, if anyone does.
A lot of mouths to feed as well in that Canberra pack. That's why Ricky's so unreliable. Starling, mate, he's still managed to pump out 60 minutes, but only 34 points, which you were gloating about on fucking Saturday, as I recall. So I was happy to give you a bit of flack back once Teddy downdated and Pap updated. I've got an issue. I've got to hold Starling for at least until round 13, so another good 5 weeks there.
Yeah.
I'm concerned he's going to lose a lot of cash between now and then if we're seeing some. He's at 520k now with a 60-odd break even, but a few more 30s and he could be closer to 400k by the time round 13's done. Maybe
the positive thing you can look at with Starling, mate, is he's an attacking player. He's got that potential in a game to throw in at 80 or 90, and that can be in 40 minutes. He doesn't need 80 minutes as a hooker for what a lot of these guys do. So he is in that echelon of hookers where, they're more attacking based rather than defensive based. I'll give him that. I can't have anyone from the Raiders. And the boys actually said in the chat the last couple of days, the podcasters chat, I don't think I'll have anyone else from the Raiders. I think this is what you got to look at with a lot of these teams. The Raiders, the Dragons, the Dogs. Unless it's a genuine friggin' Supercoach superstar, just stay away from them. Like, these should be some of these golden rules that we talk about, is that, Supercoach these days is so attacking friendly that unless it is an attacking player or a superstar, you've got to stick to your Penriths, your Melbournes, your Paras, your Cronulla, Roosters, those kinds of teams. If you can make up your team with those core players, you're going to have more consistency in your Supercoach scoring. So, take away any player biases, take away who you like or anything like that. just, yeah, stick to the better teams and your Supercoach team will be better.
Yeah, look, fair call. I'm just hoping, Starling at hooker at 7% ownership currently. He's just got a little bit of a ceiling, and maybe in that hooker position, it's a lot of people now with Cookie and Grant and not really looking at him, hopefully, so he might spike.
Yep.
Mate, on the Warriors side of the park, as I mentioned, I traded out Aiken on some dodgy mail, and I'm really keen to get him back in now. He obviously plays 13. The base is pretty consistent in him. He's sort of pretty much pumping out 40 plus in base every week. It probably averages 45 in base, to be fair. Did score a try and also set one up for 100. So it wasn't a big score considering he had some decent attacking stats in there with the try and the try assist with the line break assist. I think he would have got the line break assist for that. I was actually really hurting thinking he was going to go 120 plus. I'm almost okay with him only going 101. Yeah. Your thoughts on Aiken? Have you got Aiken?
Well, I haven't had him from the start. Obviously, I've been a big fan of his in the past, back in the St. George days, but he was just someone I couldn't sort of fit in this year at the price that he was. Mate, the thing I loved was the try off Dejan Arce. Obviously, Arce's just gone and signed with the Warriors. He's walked straight into that 6 spot with the unfortunate injury to Chanel Harris-Tavita. They look good. Like, Arce looked good, and him and Aiken basically had that combination off the left. So, yeah, mate, I really think you could regret this Aiken sell, mate. I think that is a bit of a huge mistake. Sadly, it was a mistake that I had to make. I haven't had him, but he's been a player that I've sort of looked at along the way that I was sort of pissed off that a few other people had him and I didn't.
I'm thinking about bringing him straight back in because the only reason I got off him was because there was mail he was out, and I thought I'll get a jump here, and it backfired.
He's dual
at 560.
He's dual. He's shown that he's basically got that position down pat. Like you bring Tohu back, Tohu's going to take a little while. Like Tohu's not taking his spot. Tavanga's not taking his spot. Sirenen's the one who's going to drop out. You're basically going to have Curran, Tohu, and Aiken in that second row, provided all these blokes stay healthy. They're all going to play big minutes. I
think he's a keeper in the centre wing. That's all. I don't know why I traded him out in retrospect, but I do. But I think he's a keeper in the centre wing, and that's why I'm keen to get him back in. But what's his? I don't know what his ownership is. 17%. So he's not pod, but he's not 25%.
No, sorry,
so,
mate. Yeah,
anyway.
Folks, move on to the next game. Ados is fucking getting depressed here. Mate, what? All right, let's start with the Teddy bullshit. Fucking hell. I thought I'd picked a brilliant captain, right?
Oh, fucking yeah, all right, spit it out. Well, then I'm going to serve you back.
101. He finished on 101. All right, fair enough, he down days to 94. But how the fuck does Pappy update 30,000 fucking points? Get fucked. I mean, I've got Pappy. I just didn't have him as captain, so I was just a little bit annoyed.
What I will say is, if there's ever a fucking Jimmy a prick, and look, don't get me wrong, when our own Joshy King is flying at Supercoach, it's a the Supercoach community is thriving. BJonGameDay is a good place to be. We want you up there, King. I want you in the top 1,000 for the rest of the year. I want you to finish in the top 100, mate. Because and it's just that you're just a more enjoyable bloke to be around. Let's be honest. But this fucking game. This fucking game, the Roosters have been done by the Bulldogs. You've fucking thrown the captaincy on Teddy. He's managed to score a pie. They've scored only 2 other tries and he's still fucking pretty much turned up. This game was fucking woeful. Look at Sam Walker's score. I mean, Kiri was a little bit wet. What is going on at the Roosters?
I'm going to give Sammy a break because he's the less experienced. How bad does Kiri look? Like, I know he scored 60 points there, but it just... He looks fucking lost. Like he looks like he needs a season with an Adam Reynolds or a Cooper Cronk. He needs someone there to give him his confidence back. That hang on, kid, you can do this because he's trying to lead this team and he's not doing a good fucking job.
Well, in my opinion, he's never been a genuine 7. he came into grade with South. He was always 6. And obviously the Chook signed Cooper Cronk for a little bit there, and he ended up playing in that grand final, which you thought, and Kiri got the Clive Churchill, obviously, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe we're being a bit harsh. He missed a lot of footy last year, King. Might take him another month or 2. But yeah, the Chooks look really lost. They're just sort of throwing the ball to one bloke and hoping they'll do something. The forward pack's not really doing too much, and as a result, they're not really earning their right to play any decent attacking footy.
Yeah, their forward pack's weak. It really is, and it's not. I think Robinson needs something to happen. They need a mid-season signing. They need something because, to be fair, mate, Tahiaho is probably their best forward at the moment, and he drops the ball every 3 possessions. Hargraves is just done.
And
he's gone.
Even just looking at their Supercoach, look at the scores from their forward pack there. Like you said, Takiaho's their top scorer of 43. I know there's a couple of them on 40s, but that's not always the correlation. But, I'd happily have a look at the stats and be proven wrong, but I just don't feel like they're doing enough. Look, they nearly got away with it with that Suwali try at the end there, and he actually ended up going into touch. I thought Suwali looks good. In that Roosters side, he always looks dangerous with the ball, King. He runs pretty hard. I'm hoping he can keep that spot now and make it his. But, yeah, credit to the Dogs. A big win. Josh Addo-Carr got the first 2 tries of the game. 76, probably not that great. But good to see the Fox flying once again. Pengai Jr., probably one of the more Supercoach relevant ones from the Dogs, with 54 there. So nothing.
Huge second half, but
nothing special. What was his minutes?
Mate, I think he'd had 2 runs by half time. Yeah. And in the second half, he had 14 runs. Like, mate, someone just needs to find out how to unlock this guy, because there is a beast of a Supercoach player in this guy. We all know. We all know the offloads are there. We all know that he's got that ability. We know the volatility there with, obviously, the send-offs and the sin bins and whatever it is, the ill discipline. But what I saw from the second half in this guy, if he could produce that for 80 minutes every week, he is the front rower in every single person's team. I'm very keen to get him in before 13.
Yeah, and I was looking at him last week until things changed. So, look, 75 minutes. He's playing at least 70 minutes for the last 5-6 weeks, which is good. When he started, he only played 40-50. Base isn't unreal. He's a bit like Deefy, really, in base size. You need the quality runs out of him. He's a tackle buster, and he's only scored 1 try this season. But, yeah, I like him with that duality as well at 560k. He hasn't hit his straps yet, but I don't think it's too far away, and he's looking right.
Next game, folks. Oh, Benny, turn away.
Benny.
Boys. Well, can we get a disclaimer before we go to these games, mate? Just, suicide watch. Any Eels fans, please turn away now. Fucking hell. I tell you, I don't know whether it was the Darwin humidity that they kept talking about. Mick Ennis, I could kill him. But Jesus Christ, the Eels were just woeful. Mate, like a lot of people, I thought the Cowboys had been pretenders. I thought they'd played average teams. I thought they'd played teams outside the top 8. I didn't think there was much there. Shit, we got proven wrong. Are they legit?
Well, it was interesting. There was the narrative going around last week that they were one of the best defensive sides in the comp, but they hadn't really played anyone yet, apart from the Chooks.
I saw a bit of footage of Todd Payton during the week. He's walking around like a fucking cat with a cream fucking flavoured asshole. So...
Fuck. I don't even know what that alludes to, Bogan. Can you expand on that?
He was grinning from ear to ear. He's looking very confident.
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, he should be, because they absolutely destroyed them. Again, Cole Felt scored the first 2 tries in this game, turned up. Drinkwater looks unbelievable. He's just, if there's anything happening in that side, 3 try assists, 4 line break assists.
Mate, I said it last week.
Scored a try
Hammer,
himself.
I know Hammer's come in and sort of scored and played well. Drinkwater isn't the bloke that Hammer kicks out of this team. I can't figure out who it is. So you've got Tuolangi on the wing, you've got Felt on the wing, both established players. You've got Holmes in the centres and you've got Hiku in the centres. Like, you cannot drop Drinkwater. The attacking ability he brings to this team, Hammer doesn't do that. Like, Hammer, I think Hammer is the worst player in that back line. I just don't think he gets a spot.
Yeah, they've obviously given him the 14 this week, King. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, he can fill any of those 1 to 5 positions, but he obviously doesn't fill the 6, 7, 9. I wouldn't have thought. But if they do have an injury, I guess Drinky can go into the 6, 7, 9, and Hammer can go back to 1. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. But I think the former Drinkwater, you couldn't drop him. Another bloke who's on an absolute... Well, probably not a tear, but he had a blinder who played 80 minutes, 75 in base, was Ruben Cotter, mate.
Yeah.
And he's looking okay. His scores are sort of fluctuated between 50. He's pretty much 50 or 70.
I can't believe the Origin hype, though, on half a dozen games.
I mean,
I know Queensland are weak in the forwards, so they're looking for something different, but I just don't think that Dallas Johnson sort of type player is what they need. I don't know. Maybe it is, but
as a New South Wales fan, I'm not worried about Queensland picking someone like Cotter. He gets through his work, and he's probably everything that epitomises Queensland with the hard work and tough stuff. And he's only a little bloke, but yeah, there has been a bit of chat. I don't know if I heard it on the bloke. It might have been the bloke. I can't even recall, but there's people looking at bringing him in. I can't see it personally at 480k. He doesn't have a ceiling. He might get you 70 points if he has a blinder like he did on the weekend playing 80. But you're not expecting tries out of him. He's not going to make a whole heap of money. So I think if you don't already have him, I wouldn't be going him. But I know there's people who can go, like for instance, Maddie in the chat was talking about maybe Randall to him.
Yep.
At least Cotter should play 13, assuming he won't play Origin. But yeah, we'll see how he goes. I'm not too sure why he played 80 all of a sudden. I presume there was an injury or something, King. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, look, a few people with Cotter on the lips.
Mate, from the Eel side of things, look, Maddo looked awesome. 55 minutes on the park, 72 points. A lot of it in just sort of base raw stats. This is probably one team list I haven't checked. I know there's obviously a lot of talk around young Arthur Jr. getting sort of dropped and Dill Brown back in 5'8". Has Maddo got the starting spot yet?
So Maddo's still off the bench. So Lane, IPAP, D Brown back row, N Brown back row.
It's really hard to find a position. Obviously, IPAP's turned into an 80-minute play on that right-hand side. That was sort of where Maddo was. Lane's definitely a left-hand side player with Brown. They've actually formed a good combination. I think probably Lane's looked bad the last couple of weeks purely because Brown's gone to that centre. I think definitely a better team. Obviously, we know this with Brown at the 5'8". And yeah, I fully support everyone who sort of stood up for Jacob Arthur and sort of the flack he copped on fucking social media. Guys, not on. Obviously, this is just a young kid who's fucking trying to get his way into the game, and he's copped an absolute serve. But that should more be directed at the coach rather than the kid. Dylan Brown, mate, I was hoping to get one more game in the centres. God, if he could have got centre wing status for the rest of the year, line him up. He's just a keeper at centre wings.
And can you give me a spell with these scores for him at centre? Like, he's now gone to 60. He scored a 70 or 60 last week as well. Like 77, nearly 80 last week at centre. Like,
he's done nothing.
Fuck me. I was his biggest fan in 2021, and the fucker did nothing.
Yeah.
And I was off him, and now he's fucking doing everything. So look, he's rewarding owners still. 81 break even against Penrith this weekend. They don't play round 13. 670k King. Would you jump off?
Oh,
go to a shush. You could go to a shush there. It's a big call.
About jumping off because I've never had him. Put it this way, I definitely wouldn't jump on yet. But would I jump off? Nah, I'd ride the wave.
The scoring's good. I don't think you have a reason to. Just throwing it out there.
To take Blocker's words, he's just a good footy player. Like he just has a crack. So no, if I had Brown, I'd be holding.
Yeah, look, they've got a tough couple of weeks coming up. Penrith, well, the Chooks aren't tough as much anymore, but then don't play 13, so, there might be a little bit of something in that without trading, but I'll leave that to the owners. What else is in that one, King? I think...
Shieldsy, in the comments, Sean Russell in the squad this week, mate. I've been waiting for it. I've held on to him since fucking round one after he did that shit. I'm keen for Russell to get back in this team. He's the other one that I'm sort of hoping everyone else has traded out and make some cash out of. But anyway, we'll see.
Mate, quickly, can we talk Mitch Moses? Obviously, with the 8 points, it'd be remiss of us. Big Ted, shout out Big Ted.
Yep.
With his
Teddy,
halves
well
pairing
done
of
with
Sammy
Mitch
Walker.
Moses and Sam Walker combination, mate. Well done.
Jacob Arthur would have netted you more just by himself, but looks 670k again, pretty much the same narrative as Brown, except for the fact this bloke has produced an 8 now. But apart from that, he was looking unbelievable. But he's dropped nearly 60k and faces 130 break even this week up against Penrith. What are you doing?
Yeah, the worst thing is trading Cleary away for him in draft with Kando. Kando, you wanted to defend yourself, mate. Here you are. You're a prick.
And this is why I can't let you do these things, because I try and let King go.
I'm not a draft
represent us.
You know this. I like to create the worst team possible in draft to see if I can win. But anyway, a little bit opposite.
Second pick in a 14-man draft, you get Cleary, and then you trade him away by around fucking 6 or something. Anyway,
he was just going rubbish, mate. He's just
that's all right. I'll let you off. Yeah, a bit of a nightmare there. I thought he was past this. It looked like Moses had turned a corner.
Yeah,
and we always knew he had the ceiling and the consistency, but I didn't see this one coming. A bit of a concern.
Like a spoiled little rich kid who just needs a slap around. He looks like that kid when stuff goes wrong, he's going to go and cry in the corner or something like that, But anyway, yeah, look.
Kando's saying he's here, so if you want to feed him a bit more about any trades, and now's the time.
Yeah. Semi, when's Philip Semi back? Tell me that, Kando. If Philip Semi comes back and scores 140, you're forgiven, you bastard.
Anyway, look, Parramatta got thumped. It was an interesting one. The Cowboys on the up, and they'll be putting their place against us this week, but don't worry about it.
Yeah. Next game, both.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, mate.
Spoke too soon.
Oh, look. Fucking Pappy. 107. What a fucking joke. 70 updated 33 fucking points.
Well, Kendo was saying they missed the TA, LBA, or LA. They missed the try assist, line break assist. So I didn't watch the game. I conveniently had a kid's birthday party at 1 o'clock, so I was happily not watching this one. And I'm not regretting the fact that I didn't. Yeah, what do you say? Another hat trick? Was a hat trick for Coates?
Hat trick for Coates.
3.
A lot of it was just sort of finished. Like I say, he popped up in the centre of the field a little bit more, which was good to see. Olam was dominating on that left-hand side. Meany fed off him and a few sort of, line breaks on the left-hand side. Mate, it's just a typical Melbourne Storm performance. Like I say, you can pick 5-6 guys in this team every week that are going to ton up. 5 of them did. The other one there is probably Munster and Jerome Hughes. They had a quiet game and still scored 60 or 74 points. Like, this team is just Supercoach friendly. The more you've got, the better your team's going to be. I don't know, one of the lads, Damien Walsh, one of the new lads, he mentioned, obviously getting in Pappy. Mate, it doesn't necessarily have to be this week, but you've got to get him in, mate. Like this kid is just class. Mate, time it, whether he drops 100k at some stage, if he has a couple of soft ones, you just got to get him in, mate. If you don't get him in somewhere, you may as well just delete the app.
Genuinely. Mate, Coates has only had over 20 points in base one game this season.
Yeah.
And that was against the Warriors last week. 15 points on the weekend.
Yeah.
This is the thing with Coates. Leading into these big back-to-back tons, he's gone 15-18. Those are his scores in round 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And then 123, 116. I know he's in line to make a lot of money. He's obviously in a bit of form. They play the Dragons this week.
That's.
Can you jump on it?
For Nonna.
Can you jump on it? 520k. He was a much different prospect. It's 350k to start the season. Can you pay 520k even though he's in line to make a bit of cash?
Mate, until I sort of looked again today, That was the first trade I did this week, was sort of to bring him in. -69 BE. The simple fact that Melbourne have started to hit stride, and 2 weeks in a row they've done that. I think they face a tougher task this week. I've mentioned it in the podcast's chat. I think the Dragons D, regardless of who they've played the last couple of weeks, has actually manned up and looked good. And I think they can hold Melbourne to 20, 24 points. I think they can do that. I think if that happens, then Coates scores 30 points. Look, I don't know. I think you can miss him, and I'm going to go along with that this week, but I'm really scared, mate. Like, if he the next 2 or 3 weeks tons up, he could easily do that with the potential that this team's got, and that's scaring the fuck out of me. So, yeah.
I think as well as the fact that Pappy favours that left to right pass, that cutout ball, which is obviously going to be favouring that right side of Coates. So, yeah, if they put scores on, he's going to be in line for at least a couple most weeks. But, yeah, I'm spewing because I was sort of 50-50 starting the season with him. Didn't do it in the end, and it was looking like it wasn't a terrible idea until the last 2 weeks. But, yeah, I don't know if I could. I don't think I could jump on him at 520, just given the fact that he has those sub-20 scores in him. But you're just going to have to ride the roller coaster if you got him. It might be a sit and start, depending on their opponents. There's not much to talk about out of that Newey side. King, obviously, now back-to-back weeks without scoring a try. Yeah, Clem, obviously, shining light, played some decent minutes, 64 minutes, 58 in base. So not bad. Clem maybe bouncing back a little bit, but I don't know, at 550k in the front row, there's not really going to be any relevance there, especially given the fact that
Randall obviously played 80 with Clifford getting hooked and Phoenix Crossing coming on for him instead of Randall. So, look, yeah, again, Randall, he's probably been one player that a lot of people have missed this year. They've sort of picked him when they thought he was going to score well, and he got hooked fucking 40 minutes in or 50 minutes in, and he's been a tough one to grab. But other than that, he's just sort of your cash grab for the year. Mate, nothing to talk about with your boys. Just atrocious. Next game, folks. And while we change that next game, Lyle Ald in the chat. Is there any world we could go from Hines to Turbo? Look, the only way I'd look at going Hines to Turbo is if you think Cronulla are going to go shithouse. I think they've got a good enough side and a good enough platform. Their draw is soft for the next couple of weeks. Look, you got to go someone to get him, don't you? Like right now, I've got. I'm sort of stacked in the halves and fullback. I've got to get rid of a Pappy or a Turbo, a Teddy or someone like that to get Turbo. And getting rid of Teddy doesn't get me closer than 350k. So it's a tough one, mate. If that's who you got to go to get in Turbo, I'd be waiting to see some performances, mate. I'd be waiting to see one or two. His break even this week's 163. So let's say he pumps out 150. All right, you might have missed it, but he's the same cash next week as he is this week. So, you can go that then. The guy's too injury prone to sort of go straight away. So, yeah.
Well, and the other thing with him is, you need him. If you're going to go him now, he's going to have to produce a couple of big scores because in 4 or 5 weeks we've got Origin.
Yeah.
I presume he plays Origin. You're then going to have that Origin period where, he's not going to play, he might back up or he might not. Anything could happen through that period. So you've got to be prepared, I guess, carry him through Origin. Me personally, at this stage, I guess, a week's a long time in footy and he could pump out a 150 on the weekend and it all goes to shit. But I'd be looking at him post-Origin for that run home and hope that he has a couple of quiet games in the next few weeks and drops. He's still nearly $1 million, So, look, famous last words, the same thing sort of happened with Cleary and look where we are. But as I said earlier, it's a big pod move. If you're going this week against the Tigers, not a lot of people are going to have him. Just let me check his ownership percentage just quickly, King, just for those playing at home. 3%. So he's a huge, huge pod.
Mate,
that'll probably increase a little bit. I mean, I don't know if my thing I'm looking at's current, but yeah, that's going to increase a little bit. But he's still a big, big pod.
The only reason I doubt it is, or I wouldn't sort of go it, is basically based on this week's matchups. Storm with Pappy play the Dragons. which again, I think the D for the Dragons is going to be good, but Pappy's not the one I'd want to get rid of him to get Turbo. The Roosters play the Titans, and again, Teddy, as much as Teddy's been out of form, he's still been popping up everywhere. He's still running 250 metres every game. He's still, like last week, he still scored a try. I want to hold. If the Roosters were up against Penrith or if they were up against the Storm, or if it was one of those matchups, then I'd consider it. Like I think everyone you've got in there at the moment in that fullback position, whether it's Nico, Pappy, or Teddy, those are the three that you can get access to Turbo with, it seems. I can't get rid of any three of those based on this week's matchups to get him. And with 163 break even, I've got to wait a week. Throw in 150, fine, that's fine. But I've at least got to wait a week to see what happens. So, yeah.
Look, and there's some merit in some of what the boys are saying here, Teddy to Turbo, potentially next week, but you're going to pay for that trade, and yeah, that's a fair enough call, but
yeah,
you're going to have a bit of money in the bank to
do that one. I agree, mate. Week. Ted to Turbo is sort of who I'm looking at, but at the same stage, Origin coming up, we'll just see. And the final game, mate, the Tigers going down to the Dragons 12-6, but tell you what, and the boys have sort of said in the chat, if you look at the stats line in every single way this game, you would have thought the Tigers had won by 20. And that's what I mean about the Dragons D. I just think the Dragons D is actually really performing quite well at the moment, and this is where I think they'll trouble the Storm. I don't think the Dragons will beat the Storm, but I just think the Storm won't be able to put the 40 or 50 on that we've seen the last couple of weeks, and I think they're going to have to win 18-10 or 20-12 or something like that this week. A little bit more of a conventional scoreline. Alex Twal, mate. Is he a go?
Oh, I got him in one of a draft, and he's been awesome. He's been just killing it in that front row spot. He's just a base beast. He's like a Supercoach gun from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Just big base guys. I mean, it wasn't huge last week, but 62 minutes of 69 points on the weekend against the Dragons.
He's getting some tackle busts in him. He's getting some sort of...
You know what? I think he's played 97 games now, still hasn't scored a try. I'm going to load up on him in his 100th.
He's fucking due.
1, 2, 3. I think it might be against the Dogs or the South. I reckon I'm going to go because he's getting close.
You're only going to get 20-1. You should be getting 100-1 to represent the amount of games.
You should.
Yeah.
No, he looks good. I don't know. Yeah, he's sort of 530k. He doesn't have that ceiling, as I alluded to with someone like Cotter, but you're probably better off going someone like Shushra if you can at that similar sort of price. But he's doing a job in draft. He's been a great pickup.
If you could get a 65, 70 average out of a front row forward, that's all you ever wanted. Like if you could get 5 minutes, mate, you never expected anything more. And probably Payne Haas is the one where. He's the outline factor. He's the one that you think, all right, well, there's a try or two in this guy, 8 rounds a year. 12, anyone else out there, you don't. So the fact that he can put about 70s, 75s, 80s in base, I think it's just massive. But, mate, not really too much relevant in this game, was there?
Oh, not really. I think Hastings obviously is looking really good for the Tigers. Supercoach-wise, it's a bit of a relevant score with 74. Brooksy's unlocked a bit as well last couple of weeks. So, sneaky pickup in drafts if you got him. But, you wouldn't be looking at him in Classic. Nofo's turned back the clock a bit. Lucci's all right, but I think they're both out this week anyway. But, and a quiet one from Lomax. I think there's a few people hoping this would be a nice matchup for Zachy, but it didn't come from him. So
I'm not too sure what to make of Zach, mate. I've been a fan in the past. I'm not liking it. And again, I mentioned earlier, there's just some teams you don't want to take Supercoach players from, and the Dragons is one of them. He'd
be one of the only ones, but I mean, he's been pretty consistent. That's his lowest score of the year by far. That's his first score sub 50. So I mean, he's still been pretty consistent.
I would love to see Zach Lomax in a Storm jersey on the right-hand side in centres. Fuck Remus Smith off and put him in that team, and mate, he would be a New South Wales player hands down. Like it's just the team makes the player, mate, and the Dragons are just rubbish.
You reckon Nato Carr gets a spot this year?
In what? Origin? Nah,
Yeah.
I've never rated the
You
bloke,
reckon?
mate. Like, but
Interesting.
in saying that, look, the one thing about Origin though, Origin brings out your best players, right? Like with regards to every position. The role of a winger, other than maybe a Brian Toto, with how they sort of bring the ball back, is to finish plays, is to finish off, and the Fox sort of does that as good as anyone else, right? I think the best finisher in the game is probably Sione Katoa for Cronulla, just with how he can get across the line in just ridiculous ways, right? So
He's sitting in
that's
fucking row
sort of the
4
extreme where he
sometimes.
can fucking break his neck kind of thing. The Fox has got the chance to, I guess, break open a play or whatever, but to me, it was just the fact that he was on that left-hand side for Melbourne and they're the best team in the comp. I think they made him look so much better than he actually was. I think there's better players New South Wales can pick with what they need in the team. So, I don't know. I think Daniel Tupou is a better player than the Fox. Like, I think he's been, for so long, a better player and probably should have received more recognition. But, yeah.
Yeah, I think Addo Carr, when he's played for New South Wales, has been brilliant, but I'd be looking at Tupu Toto as well, personally, just for that fact that they're bringing it out of the backfield a bit better and that sort of thing. But yeah, interesting to see. I don't think Freddie will turn on him just yet.
No, I don't. And
he's
got no reason to probably either as well, mate. So, yeah. I'll be back in 5.
Yeah, no worries. Anyway, that was round 8. We got there in the end. Moving on to where's the retro logos, folks? Hell, it's reminding me of ET's Rugby League with those flags.
That's what I use on what is it, Zero Tackle, where I grabbed the team list from. But didn't have time to put the logos in this week, so maybe next week.
Fair enough. Jumping into the first game on the Thursday will be the Rabbits taking on the Broncos, and a couple of big ones in this one, or Payne Haas in particular. If you hadn't heard already, you've been living under a rock. Payne Haas is going to be out for at least a week, but a bit of a monitor with that AC joint issue. So, look, it's a tough one with him. It's really hard again with this going into Origin. It's 650k basically, a 90 break even. It's really hard. I think if you're going to trade someone like Haas, especially in that front row position, it has to be for someone like IPAP or TPJ or someone like that, surely. Otherwise, I think he's a hold regardless, because he's going to be one of the best. If he will be, top 2 front row, Supercoach wise, if you include IPAP in that front row position. So I'll be holding him and sitting him on the pine, but it is an interesting dilemma for Supercoaches this week. Who knows? 1 week could turn into 2 to 4 through Origin.
I'm going.
Yeah, interesting decision.
Swap for Lolo.
Oh, Lolo is another one. Sorry, if Lolo is probably the only other one I would consider. So fair trade, and probably bank 100k odd from that trade, folks. Yeah, not bad. Don't hate it. Kate Well out as well, so TC Rabati comes in. There, what else have we got in this one? Look, should be an interesting game. Brisbane have been, pretty decent in patches. They haven't really played 80 minutes just yet. They've put in some good 40-minute performances in games, and again, South probably haven't been the team we've expected them to be based on how they performed last year. But yeah, it should be an interesting game. Isaiah Tass obviously been named, and he's a guy that if you need some cash, you need to trade to someone cheap to generate a bit of cash, he's a man that you could look at this week. Bottom dollar in the centre wing there. As I said, if you want to trade someone like Penasini, who is in form, you probably don't need to trade him, but won't play 13, play Penrith this week. There's some credibility in looking at trading him, I think. And like I said, you bank 300,000 on that trade. So have a look at him. Rabbits don't play round 13, and Brisbane do not either. So it does make bringing in some of these guys a little bit awkward at this point now, given we're sort of 4 weeks out from that first bye. So unless you're looking at someone that you think might be a keeper or a really big pod for the next few weeks, I know there's a few people looking at Cody Walker But yeah, just be mindful, obviously, with round 13 not too far away, that bringing in any players from this team will be not playing round 13. And Paddy Carrigan obviously is another big inclusion there. They lose Haas, but they get big Paddy Cags in. So yeah, he's been really good and keen to see him back. He's probably been a little bit, I don't know, people aren't going to look at him in Classic, but I think he's been pretty good, and he's like a mini. Sorry, let me just bring up his base. He's a base stat beast, but just hasn't been playing huge minutes. But I'm a big fan of Pat Carrigs, maybe a bit of a draft guy. What do we got, chat? Anything else people are chatting about? That one. Cody sub 60 by Kando. I think, yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see. Should be an interesting game. Agree, Shieldsy. Then then on 6 o'clock on the Friday, be the Raiders taking on the Dogs. Let me tell you, it's getting cold down here, so it's starting to get pretty cold, Bogues?
A little bit later than usual, but yeah, it's starting to get that usual Canberra winter, so rug up if you're going out to GIO Stadium, because it's always 10 degrees colder out at Bruce than what it is in the rest of the city, and it gets fucking cold here.
Yeah, concrete jungle out at Bruce there. ADOS sort of experienced a little bit of that the other week. Look, some big changes for Canberra. Obviously, Chan's back into the starting side there, replacing Rapana, who moves back to the wing. Jared Croker comes in for his first game as well. Whiten is also now missing accepted a 2-week ban for a throw, so Matt Frawley comes in. Elliott has held down the starting 9 at this point. Whitehead returns, so a few changes there on that side of the park in terms of Supercoach. Yeah, it's hard to see a lot of relevance out of these guys. They do play 13. We touched on Elliott. It's just really tricky to bring in any of these guys. I'm just thinking whether Tapane's done much. I mean, again, his minutes have just been sort of disappointing, but he's been reasonable at 560k. A little bit awkward, but we haven't seen enough from Big Joe just yet. But he does have the ceiling in him if he gets going. He's been better in the last month, but yeah, he's an interesting one. But it's just too hard. Obviously, I'm a Starling owner, so hopefully he gets on the park pretty quickly in this one, and might be a bit cold out there for the Dogs. On the Canterbury side of the park, Josh Jackson's back from his little COVID break, so Max King goes back to the bench. Naden's also back in and pushes Ockenbaugh out. Yeah, look, we touched on TPJ. Obviously, the Dogs will play 13. Luke Thompson, he's been a little bit quiet this year considering how he's gone last year. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, minutes sort of all over the shop. Not really getting a huge minute share, sort of 50-odd, 60 every now and then. So he's a little bit tricky at 500k. I just like TPJ a little bit better because he has the ceiling, but you're probably not going to get as much of a brain explosion, obviously, out of someone like LT. But yeah, look, it should be an interesting game. Supercoach-wise, you're probably not touching anything in Classic. Maybe a few draft plays in this one, but yeah. But like I said, apart from probably someone like TPJ, I wouldn't be looking at heaps in Classic personally. Yeah. Moving on. King's back.
I'm back, boys. I'm back.
And this will be, one of the games is round. Potentially, if the Eels actually show up, should be a big game out at Bluebet. 7:55 on Friday evening. Panthers taking on the Eels. Some big changes or some big watches in this one, obviously, with Brian To'o, one of the biggest ones in that extended bench there. So there's been a lot of chat, obviously, amongst the Supercoach circles in particular about whether Staines drops out or Taylor May drops out. Look, it's interesting. Obviously, we all, as Supercoaches, would prefer Staines to drop out, but Staines has been, a bit better this year, a bit more involved, that sort of thing. So it will be interesting to see what Cleary does.
It's just everything about this. Forget who earns the spotlight. May has been so active since he came in. Targo's been as well. Staines has had a crack the last few weeks. Like, he is turning up with those, runs out of his own half and things like that. But I look at that combination that Crichton and Toto can produce. I just really think it'd go against what Penrith have turned into, and that's the best club in the comp. If they went anyone other than replacing Staines, to me they'd go backwards by moving May. Yeah,
it's just the thing. Like they don't lose. What they gain from putting Toto in Staines' position is obviously much more than what they gain by replacing May, as you sort of said. So, yeah, will be really interesting to see what happens there. Brian Toto, I think he had a bit of a shocker to start the year, King. He's still 730k, but he's got 170 break even.
Yeah.
So he's in line for a big drop, assuming he doesn't have a big game this weekend in the next couple weeks. I assume
he definitely didn't start off what we knew. He definitely didn't start off what we saw last season, and I mean that was a bit of a surprise to everyone. You can sort of accept someone going backwards a little bit. There was not much there.
Yeah, look, so 48 and a 21. So at 740k, he's in for a big drop with the big BE. So he's on the watch list and someone that people might look to get in pre-Origin, even if he does get picked in Origin, because he can pile on the tries, and obviously he's a base stat beast for a winger and gets all the tackle busts. Look, should be a big game. I think Penrith are unchanged. Parramatta side of the park. Obviously, Opacek come back in, which moves Dylan Brown into the 6th, the highly scrutinised 6th position for the Eels there from last week. What is he? What's his name? Jake Arthur.
Yep.
Relinquished there. Look, the other one, Sean Russell, is on that extended bench. I think Hayes Perham, obviously apart from last week, hadn't been too bad. So interesting to see whether there's a late switch there as well.
Simmonson's his spot, doesn't he?
I think he likes him. He doesn't mind him.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting once they get Sevo. Sevo will be probably not too far away as well. It'll be interesting to see whether who gets that spot. But yeah, look, we touched on already Moses and Brown, whether they're trades or not. Obviously, we've talked about trading Penasini King. The Eels don't play 13. Penrith do. It's going to be a tough matchup. For the Eels, I feel, but I think they also give the Penrith a bit of a run. If I'm not mistaken, if you went back and had a look at their last few games, it's generally pretty close from memory. So there'll be a lot of people probably thinking that Penrith will do it easy, but Parramatta will be obviously looking to bounce back after last week as well.
Yeah.
But whether you chuck a VC or something like that on Cleary, I'm not too sure just yet. Where have we got here? Anyway, I don't really know what else Supercoach-wise in that one.
All right, Tommy Turbo, he is back. Benny Trebojevic in the centres, mate. He is a fucking turnstile. They're just lucky they're playing the Tigers, and they probably can't take advantage of this. But
I must admit, when he got out there on the weekend, he's massive.
Yeah.
Like he made Campbell Graham look small.
Yeah.
And Campbell Graham's huge. Like, he actually dwarfed Campbell Graham. I was actually, obviously Tommy's a big boy. Jake's not as tall, but Ben is a specimen.
I am huge, but I've got no ability whatsoever. Like,
but this bloke's playing first grade for fucking NRL, for fuck's sake, mate. Come on.
Mate,
look, I think he's...
They signed Turbo, they signed Jake. They said, look, you got to get our little brother. He's a big cunt, but he's fucking...
It's like the... Antetokounmpos. Giannis made him sign all the brothers.
Mate, the best thing Benny Turbo could have ever done was not fucking play rugby league, mate. He just had to be our Jared Anderson for the next 5 years, Get dual position, second row, centre fucking wing. Yeah, get rid of him. He's useless.
Anyway, and we've talked about Kula, we've talked about Chipolata and the potential for Tommy to unlock these boys. So
yep.
I've got Kula. I'll be having a good look at Tipoludu. I've got no idea how to say that, but yeah, Chipolata I'm looking at. We've talked about Garrick. Yeah, look, obviously Ola's back, Schuster's back. Plenty of Supercoach relevance in this one. It's just finding the right guys and will Tommy take the points off some of these guys?
Josh Alloway on the bench, mate.
Look, I'm sure that one's going to come back at some point to pay dividends for you.
Mate, they
unless
always
you've already
do.
traded him out.
They always do.
Something will happen. The bloke will score a double the week you have to play him or some bullshit and he'll go 130.
No.
But yeah, look, interesting point as to whether Tommy takes some of the points off these boys, but I don't know. The fact that he's out there, it's got to be good things for any of these other guys.
Better. I don't think he takes points off anyone. I just think he makes them better. I think they're a 16 to 20 point team better on the scoreboard, better team on the scoreboard, and that can only be reflected in Supercoach. So, yeah. I think,
Tigers.
I think there's fucking 50 points there this week for the Eagles.
Not sure what the weather's doing. 3 o'clock Saturday Arvo as well. Maybe it's raining around here. What have we got in Sydney? Saturday should be sweet. So anyway, keep an eye on that. Tigers in disarray. Obviously, no Dane Laurie, no Nofo. Luciano's out. They've been a little bit not in disarray. They've won 2 of their last 3 games. Obviously, last week was no good, but again, Supercoach wise, can't really look at them. No 13, and their best players are basically out.
Yeah.
Apart from Hastings. Whereas Manly will play 13, so guys like Ola and Shush are a bit more friendly in that sense.
Yeah. We got
moving on.
Oh. Mate, I just can't hack the Roosters here. I really don't know. Like we spoke about it earlier, their forward pack just don't seem to be laying the platform. Those front rowers, Hargraves has just been weak. Collins has been okay, mate, but like even me calling him out pre-season, I thought he was better than this. I think he's really underperformed. Bradley looks scared to get suspended again. I don't know. I just think the Roosters, maybe they just need to shake it up a bit and get rid of a few players.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's still a decent matchup for them. So Teddy owners will hold again and see what he throws up. But yeah, there's been lots of movement in the squad in that back line. Morowski's back in after Kieran got put in last week, and Tupu is, he's been solid, but he hasn't been setting the world on fire. But yeah, he's back as well. Apparently Momo was ill, so yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with the Chooks. We talked about them a fair bit.
Yep.
Titans Park, side of the park, obviously no Deefy. Out now, Proctor comes in, but yeah, again, they do play 13, but it's hard to pick any of them. They're not playing good footy. So, it's hard, like you said, to look at guys in teams that aren't sort of scoring well, but there might be a bit more relevance to some of these Titans guys over the next couple of weeks if they can sort of turn it around.
Yeah. Next game, folks. Mate, Cowboys, fuck, they're going to be $1.10 up against your boys the way these two teams are going. If you go anything on form, they're going to lucky to score 2 points this week.
Yeah, unchanged from last week as well when coming up against the Newcastle side in all sorts. A few changes there in the halves for Newcastle. Clune and Clifford gone. So Texie Hoy comes in and Crossland come in to start in the halves there. Whether there's a late change and Texie goes to the fullback and maybe Ponga plays a bit of 6, we'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
Fitz is back, but yeah, again, Knights don't play 13 and they're playing shit, so you probably can't look at any of them. And Cowboys do. You got Lolo there. People looking at Cotter, as I said. Drinkwater, mate. Can we talk about Drinkwater? There's plenty of people looking at Drinky.
We'll talk about it in 2 seconds. So Reuben Cotter's already hooker second row, isn't he?
Yep.
They can't change his status, can they?
I don't believe so.
They can't go from second row to front row, can he?
Nah. I think once they got the 2, that's it.
Yeah. Mate, Drink, look, I just can't bring him in because I'm stacked already. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand everyone's having a crack. He's in great form. Again, the Hammer on the bench concerns me. The fact that I really think in the next week or 2, if Hammer gets his fitness up, that Peyton won't be able to resist and put Drinkwater back to the 14. I don't think he's a trap because of that, but if I didn't have him already, I wouldn't be going near him.
I mean, he's nearly popped three of his last 4 scores are pretty much tons. But yeah, he's 600k minus 21 break even. They play Newcastle and the Tigers. So, yeah.
Okay, next game. Let's keep going. Let's get through this. Hour and a half already. I'm going to go to bed.
Storm taking on the Dragons. You've touched on it already, King. You think the Dragons might actually show up with a bit of steel in this one and make it a little bit difficult for the Storm? Maybe not a heap of
just
points out there as people might be thinking.
Just defensively, their structure. I think the Dragons have been sound the last couple of weeks. People can say that they played the Tigers, but the Tigers had every chance to put 30 or 40 on them, and they held them to 6. The week before that, I think the Roosters, again, they look good as much as the Roosters have been bad. I just think if there's any team lately that probably, you're looking outside that top 8 that can give Melbourne a challenge with regards to defence, it's this team. Melbourne have had it great the last 2 weeks. They've clicked. Everything's gone right for them. I don't know. It's just one of those momentum swings that I think that the Storm will, yes, still win, especially down there at Amy Park. But I think maybe the Dragons can hold them to, mid-20s as a result. So, if that happens, then you're definitely not going to get the 100 points out of 5 different players. Maybe 1 or 2 of the Storm players might get near that ton. But who that is every week, that's the hardest thing, mate. I mean, you want every one of these guys in your team because you just don't know which between your Harry Grants, your Cam Munsters, your Jerome Hughes, Pappies, Meaney, Coates, who's going to score the 100 each week. So, Brandon Smith can come off the bench and score 2 or 3 tries. So, it's a little bit of a hard one here with the Storm, but I just think the Dragons can give them that little bit of a challenge. And, mate, from the Dragons side, like I said, there's just no one in this team that has earned Supercoach relevancy this season.
Yeah, I think Lomax would be the only one that I'd be looking at if I was going to. And
Benny Hunt, if still at the hooker, but that's about.
Yeah, Benny as well. But so Jack Bird returns, but all the usual suspects in the Melbourne side. And there'll still be a lot of people chucking the captaincy on Paps and Munster and Grant and stuff like that this week.
That's fair. Yeah. And then the last game on the Sunday, 4:00. Sharkies up against the Warriors. Nice little time slot here for me to watch this weekend. I think the Sharks bounce back, mate. I think we were that bad last week. I think the 10 days off really helps them. The Warriors have obviously had a little bit of disruption with injuries and that themselves. DWZ comes back this week. It's already been spoken about by a few people in different chats and different avenues that Talakai will be up against Vailea. So he's going to have his hands full. But just a really inexperienced backline there for the Warriors, I think, doesn't help them. Mate, SJ hasn't been really the SJ of old this year. He's popping up here and there, but I think the Warriors, I think this is probably, a lot of people talked about the Cowboys last week, mate, with that they beat no one. I think that's the Warriors team this year. I think that they've just beaten other cellar dwellers. And look, I'll be disappointed if the Sharks don't win by 13 plus.
Yeah, I think Captain Hines, this one, it could be a slaughter, and I'm not looking forward to it as a non-Talakai owner.
Yeah,
Talakai could have a day out here, so could be a big finish to the round for a few super coaches with the Sharkies in their side.
Little prediction. We'll go the crystal ball. I'll go Britton Nakora for 100 plus. I know a lot of people have sort of been disappointed with him this season, and a few people started the year with him, and he just sort of hasn't produced. But I reckon, on that right-hand side, Nakora this week, he might score. Give him 2 meat pies and 100 plus.
One thing I will say is Wade Graham absolutely stifled their left edge once he came on last week, so it'll be interesting to see.
I don't want him
there. He was obviously hasn't played for an extended period and fitness and all that sort of stuff. But gee whiz, when he came on, there was not much doing when he got the ball in his hands.
Mate, you look at what, again, Fafita doesn't find himself in the side, but there's just a certain time where, the team's gone in a different direction and these guys are still trying to play football from 5 years ago. I think Wade, it's time to hang up the boots. You've had that many concussions, that many injuries. I wouldn't be surprised with the next one for him to medically retire.
Yeah, he's stopping obviously some young blokes from getting a run as well, which is for the better of the club in the long term. But anyway, good luck to the Warriors in this one. That's all I'm going to say.
What do we got next? Groups. All right.
Let's go the top ones, Bo. Top scorers.
All right. So first one, the BJ Cup, and that was Brad with the 1273.
Yeah.
Pete top, Kevin bottom, Josh King. That's your top three for the BJ Cup.
Sweet. Next.
BJ Royal Rumble. Tony's Tigers. Hopi Cobra, Frankie, and I Feel Gould.
Shout out to Matty Buckman, Haynes Sweaty Sack. He's flying along solid. Guys, anyone who hasn't jump on the Triple SC podcast on YouTube, on Facebook. Matty Buckman and his nephew Blade are doing that week in, week out, just getting a start. So make sure you guys give them some support, give them a follow, and any tips and contribution you give them, I'm sure they will enjoy and accept.
BJ Bogan's Cup. It was I didn't get that. Bogan's Cup. Humdinger Dolphins, Troy with 1248. Josh King, Get the Spin, John coming in third with an 1198.
Cool.
John going right there.
And I did it a bit different this week because I realised that doing the groups first was doing a bit of a spoiler for the leagues. So the BJ group for the week was Tyson with is that the same Tyson? Is that your mate Tyson, Shano? But yeah.
I don't think so.
13.05, and he got up over Foot to Balls, Luke, by a single digit, followed by Kobe's Knights, and okay, great.
There we go. And the draft, mate.
And that takes us to the overall in the group, which is Vaughan with Supercoach, sitting in 59th position.
Bang.
Followed by Unleashed Kennel, Jonathan. He's sitting in 121st overall. Stratty Highlanders, James, sitting in 163rd. Up the Dufty,
well done, boys.
Andy. He is in 259th. And you mentioned him earlier, Haynes Sweaty Sack, Matty, sitting in 304th. King, you must
can't even get a start.
Must be a week away from the top 10, surely.
Mate, I tell you what, look, this is what I say. I mentioned it earlier in the video. Very, very impressed with the group so far. A lot of guys in that top 500, which is great to see. Marty just outside the top 500. So,
good work, boys.
Long time viewer. So well done, Marty. But good work to all the boys up there.
Draft results. So,
what a game.
Hampto's Hitman got up over Hell's Grannies. Stopping Hell's Granny's march there. Shano, he went down to Big Ted. Kane Anderson, top scorer for the week for the whole draft. Flogging the Shockmasters. Nice. BJonGameDay, Josh King doing me a favour, getting up over Benny.
Oh, I tell you what, look, lowest score of the week to win too. So, I got lucky there. Everyone else would have fucking beat me.
And I got up over Clemmy.
Hogan, he's flying
out in fur.
6-1 and
1. Love it.
So that takes us to the ladder. I'm top of the ladder. I'm ahead 3 points, but I'm sure that's going to change because I'm up against Benny this week, and Payne House is one of my top players. So,
Leno Fish, Tragics, he's off. Cheers, buddy. Thanks for joining in, mate. Good to see you here.
Yeah, cheers, Gunnar.
And that's it, folks.
And that is it.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, another week of BJonGameDay. We still can't figure out how to make this shorter than an hour and a half each fucking week, but anyway.
And we rushed the last half of the show because you guys took...
Yeah, we did too. But yeah.
What did it used used to be? We used to aim for the show to be under an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hour and a half seems to be the mark.
But mate, we used to have the trading floor. We used to have crystal ball. We used to have
time warp.
Yeah. But anyway, all good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for another week. JP, Triple SC Podcast, Kane Anderson, Glenn Fisher, Shieldsy, Ados, all the boys are in the chat still, which is awesome to see. Guys, thank you very much. We will be back next week. Good luck this week, guys. By all means, jump on afterwards, have another watch, and just chuck in the comments or something like that. Who your chats are, who your trades are.
Yep. Jump on the VOD and leave who your captain is in the comments.
Yeah, captains. Hampton, quick one. Who are you going?
Paps into Hines, but I won't be able to loop, so Hines all the way, baby.
Paps into Hines? Yeah, I'm finding it hard to not go Hines this week. And I think I've got to go Teddy as VC just to stay with him. I've just got to give him something. So, yeah, we'll leave Teddy. We'll leave Pappy on the bench. We'll go Teddy into Hines as well.
Beautiful, Bogues.
I'll be putting the VC on Pappy and Hines as captain. Always go to Rockstar when I can.
Fucking banking.
Boys and girls, thank you very much.
Boys.
See you all next week.